Hello, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to review the Almaden Valley, California real estate market analysis for October 2008. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California, a member of the National Association of Realtors, and a certified ePro. I'm also the president and CEO of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services, serving all of Silicon Valley. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the numbers for October of 2008 for Almaden Valley. First, we're going to go ahead and look at the inventory numbers. We can see we've had an increase between 2007 and 2008. Inventory numbers are actually up 44.3% from this time last year. That gives us an increase of 35 homes to the overall inventory, giving us a grand total of 114 homes currently in the inventory in Almaden Valley. Now, if we take a look at the number of homes that have been listed, we can see that has also increased from the same time last year. We've actually seen a pretty steady increase from 2006 up until 2008, but we are not at the historical high levels. What's interesting is that we've saw higher levels in 2005, 2003, 2002, 2001, and of course back in the 2001-2002 timeframe is when we had the internet bubble, the tech bubble burst, which is what affected the market back then. So actually the number of folks adding their homes to the market is almost kind of comforting. It's not as high as it could be, so that's good news. Although inventory numbers are definitely showing an increase over the last couple of years. Now, let's go ahead and look at the sold numbers. Now, to give you sort of a perspective on the new listings increased by 20.59% from October of 2007 to 2008. That's an increase of 7 more homes that were listed in the month than at the same time last year. That gives us a grand total of 41 homes that were listed in the month of October of 2008 versus the same time last year. Now, sales is a little disappointing. It's been on pretty much a steady decline ever since 2003. Almaden is one of the areas that really saw sales decreasing over the longest period of time, while a lot of other communities were only starting to see their sales numbers going down around 2005, 2006. Almaden's been seeing pretty steady decline since 2003. We're right now down at our lowest point. We sold a total of 16 homes in Almaden Valley. Now, compared to 2007, the sales numbers are down 27.3%. That is 6 fewer homes sold in the month of October of 2008 than in the same month of 2007. And if we do the math on these numbers, if we take the total inventory and divide it by the total number of homes sold, that gives us the total number of months it would take to sell off everything currently in inventory. And that's at 7.13. So about 7.13 months of inventory currently on hand. That's not as bad as some other communities. If you've listened to my presentation on Morgan Hill and also even on Los Gatos, you know that those numbers are also higher than Almaden Valley. So Almaden Valley is actually not doing horribly bad. And that number is actually down from last month. Last month it was at 7.66. So not a big change, but at least it's a change in the right direction, no matter how small. And in other good news, it's very close to the county average of 6.4. So while it's not overperforming on the average for the county, at least it's not up into double digits like some other areas are. Okay, now let's look at the same numbers just going back over the past months. We're going to try and see if we can't do a little soothsaying here. We're going to look into the crystal ball with some of these numbers and see where they might go based on what we saw last year. Now, before we get into that, let's just look at the very short-term changes between September of 2008 and October of 2008 for inventory. Now, the inventory is actually down by 0.87%, so a very, very small decline. It's 1 fewer home on the market in October than was on the market in September. Now, if we look to last year, that's a little bit of a disappointment. From from September through till October, we saw declines. We would hope to have seen the same thing here, and we do, but just not on the levels. Look at that dramatic decrease we saw at the same time of year last year. This year, we didn't get those dramatic decreases. We got decreases over about the same period of time. But if things continue this way, we would expect to see continued declines right up until December. It'll be interesting to see if it goes that way, given that we're seeing at least similar performance. What I would guess is that it'll mirror what we saw last year, but at the same mild level. So instead of seeing the dramatic decreases that we saw last year, we'll see much more mild decreases into the next couple of months. So I don't see a whole lot of big changes in the market. It looks like we're just going to have a typical winter, but just not as pronounced as we did last year. Now, if we look at the number of homes that listed in the month of October versus previous months, we can see it's down from last month, but right at about the same level it was in August. We had a little bit of a bump there in September of folks adding their homes to the market. It was actually down 28.07 when compared to September. That's a change of 16 homes, so 16 fewer homes were listed in October than September. And finally, for our solds, we actually got a little bit of a boost this month when compared to September. Sales are up 14.29%. That's 2 more homes sold in the month of October than in the month of September. So, again, not amazing good news, but at least it's good news. It's not on the negative side of the column. All of this is good towards getting those inventory numbers more in control. You can see that we are obviously trending down in inventory. If we look for a little bit of inspiration from last year on our listing numbers, we can see that we're probably expecting continued decreases in listings. That would be normal for the season. For November and December, you almost always expect to see things go down as we enter into the Christmas time. People don't want to be listing their homes. We may see a little bit less of a decrease this year because I think some folks really don't have a choice. They have to get out of their homes, and they're going to try and keep marketing it as long as they possibly can. As for the sales numbers, if we look back to October, we see that last year we also got a little bit of a bump in October, between September and October of 2007. Just not as much of a bump this year. And then things actually stayed fairly flat for October and November without seeing much of a decrease until December. It wouldn't surprise me if we see more buyers out there this winter. I think there's a pretty strong feeling that this is the time to take some pretty good deals out of the market. I know I have several buyers that are poking around. I have a couple pretty seriously looking at homes and others that are actively looking through the listings to see what comes up. With an eye towards really being able to take advantage of some of the bargains that are out there on the market right now. And as I've said in other presentations, I think a lot of this is going to depend on how we see things moving forward. If we see dramatic decreases, it might scare off some folks. But if we continue to see decreases that are relatively mild, I think what will probably happen is we'll see the combination of timing and a down market hit for next year's summer season. When most buyers want to do their moving, when they want to move because the kids are in school or for business reasons or work reasons, the summer season tends to be hotter for real estate. So I think that we might see a little bit more of a boost in sales then. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the home prices in Almaden Valley for October of 2008. We can see that we're on a steady decline since 2006. No huge drops. Now, that's actually pretty good news for Almaden when you can take into consideration how the market's affecting a lot of other communities. There are some areas that have just seen profound drops in average sales price. A little bit more mild for Almaden, which is good news. A lot of areas have seen double-digit decreases, 15, 16, 20%. But Almaden is seeing a decrease of 4.19%. That's an overall dollar value of $45,674. So that's actually pretty good news. Now, the average home price was $1,045,155. So overall, Almaden's actually not doing that bad just when it comes to average sales price. If we look at the median change, the median home price is down 7.88%. That's a dollar value of $83,500 for a median price of $976,500. So what does the median tell us? Now, we're just presenting that here now. If you think of that median number, that high point in the median, $960,000, if you think of that, or $976,500, excuse me. If you think of that as the middle point for the total number of homes sold, in other words, if 100 homes sold, 50 of them would be above that amount and 50 of them would be below that amount. So it sort of gives you an idea of the distribution of where folks are buying. Where's the epicenter, really, of the number of homes as far as price goes. So what you can see here is that basically that the homes that are selling were tended to be grouped a little bit more under the average price than above the average price. So we're just getting more homes that are selling below that average price, really, than above it. So it's kind of a nice little guideline to see which way things are going when those two numbers are relatively equal with each other as they were last year. The average number really represents a good average where you can say that, about half the homes sold above that amount and half the homes sold below that amount. Okay, now, can we get any advanced information from this? Is there anything we can look forward to based on this performance? No, we'll see. And when we look at the short term, we'll see if that's the case. Now, to get down a little deeper here, the highest priced home in Almaden Valley was on Broadacres Drive. That sold for $1,770,000. It was originally listed for $1,899,000, and that was on the market for 147 days. The lowest priced home was on Kisser Drive. That sold for $635,500. It was originally listed for $619,900. So yes, that did sell for above asking price. It was only on the market for 13 days, and it was real estate owned. That means it was bank owned. It was a foreclosed property. So that explains, the sales price being higher than the asking price. Now, the average price per square foot for homes that sold in Almaden Valley was up from last month to $452.34. That's over a $12 increase from last month, where it stood at $440.07. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the same data, the prices data, just going back over months. So we're going to go all the way back to July of 2007, see if we can sort of guess where we're going to go with price. Now, obviously, we've seen a lot of fluctuation here. When you're dealing with smaller areas, it's always tough to filter these numbers sometimes because they can artificially go up and down, because sometimes we get a month where something extremely expensive sells, and that can skew the numbers higher, or the opposite can also be true. What we want to look for here are general trends. Oftentimes, these numbers are better looked at in terms of quarter trends rather than month-to-month trends. But we'll see if we can figure out what is going on. Now, you can see that right now we're probably sitting at a point that's really a relatively average point if you averaged out over the last 6 months. We're not too terribly high. If you tried to draw a line that sort of navigates an average as we go of this, you could see things are relatively flat. We're not seeing a profound trend going up or down. If you could say we're seeing any kind of a trend going up, really August and September were showing sort of an uptrend, and then things went down a little bit. And that sort of supports some things we were seeing earlier in the year. Right around that time, July, August, and September, we were starting to see a little bit of a prolonged market. We were seeing buyers coming out, buying more. And then we had the market crash, and it sort of reset everything. And that's really what I think we need to take away from the stock market situation we find ourselves in, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all these horrible things that have happened, is that it was less about really drawing our market down and more about sort of just erasing the very mild recovery signs that we were seeing around mid-year, where inventory numbers were starting to come down a little bit, sales numbers were starting to go up a little bit. We were starting to get a little bit more confidence in our local market, and I think that really just erased that. So really, if these numbers are playing out the way I'm describing them, then what we'll just see is that as we move forward, things are where they would have been if we had really never started seeing any kind of recovery at all in the market. It's really just it really has delayed what we saw as a mild recovery by 6 months to a year, I'd say. So, and we'll see how that plays out over the coming months. November will be very interesting in this regard, because that'll be the first month where we've got full effect of the downturn involved. It often takes 30 days for an escrow to close, so November is going to be the first month where all the data that we're getting really relates to how people are thinking after the market crash. So that'll be interesting stuff to look at. Now, as I mentioned before, the average sales price of a home was $1,045,155. Between September and October of 2008, the price change was down 13.9%. That's a dollar change of $168,709. The median was down 11.23 from September. That's a dollar value of $123,500. And again, the total number of homes that sold was 16 in October. Now let's go ahead and take a look at, and of course you see the median there, a big drop there as well. So we've seen a pretty dramatic change in the average sales price this month compared to last month. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the days to sell. It's like a lot of the other numbers that are indicators here that we're heading back into territory that's not such great news. What's interesting, though, is that we're not doing as bad as we were doing in 2006 when things really started to delay in Almaden Valley. We actually have a 21-day increase from the same time last year. So in October of 2007, it was taking 21 days less to get a home sold. That's a 47.73% increase. Now, the lowest days on market in Almaden Valley was 7. The longest days on market was 161, and the next closest to the highest was 147. So still some pretty good distribution of these numbers. It's not like we're seeing some just crazy out there high numbers that are skewing the overall numbers. I'd say that 65-day number is actually pretty good to go off of. To sort of break it down a little further for you, 1 home sold in the first week it was listed, 4 homes sold in the first 8 in 8 to 30 days after it was listed. 7 homes sold 31 to 90 days after it was listed, and 4 homes sold 90 days or later. Now, 31.3% of the homes sold did so in the first 30 days, so that's relatively good news. Almost a full third of the homes that sold in less than 30 days. Last month, 20% of the homes sold in 30 days or less. So that's actually an improvement in October from September, or excuse me, from last month, excuse me. So from September to October, we've actually got a bigger number that are selling in a lesser amount of time. So that's good news. Does this tell us where we're going? No, we're not really going to get much data from this slide on where we're going, but hopefully this slide will give us just a little bit more insight. We can compare the same time last year to this year and see where it leaves us. Now we can see we've had relatively flat performance over the past 2 months with general increases. I mean, if you average out, it looks like if you do it in 2-month chunks, you can see that we've had a very general increase, say from about the 30s to the 50s to the 60s as far as average days on market is concerned. Now, if we look back to October of last year, we can see that we got a pretty good drop from September to October in the total number of days it took to get a home sold. I went back and looked on that, and that was a little bit artificially affected by a couple of properties that were on the market for just an extremely long time. But as you would expect for the winter months, you get a general increase from October as we move further into the winter months of November and December. My guess is we'll see the same thing this year. I don't think this 65 is going to end up being a low number for us this winter. I would guess that as the winter months move forward, we're going to see that go up. It may not go up as much as last year, though. As I've said, we've got more buyers out now than we did at the same time last year, at least in terms of shopping. I think a lot of these low prices have brought out a lot of people who are interested in possibly taking advantage of that situation. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't think we'll see as much of an increase as last year, but I think we'll definitely at least see some sort of a marginal increase. Now, from September to October, the days to sell went down by 1.52%. It was only a change of 1 day, so not substantial, but at least it's heading in the right direction. Now, I do appreciate you taking the time to come out and listen to what I have to say on these market reports. If you'd like to visit my website, you can find my other market reports. You can find my weekly podcast. You can also find articles I've written relating to real estate, and you can find that at www.soldbyrobert.com. If you'd like to get in contact with me directly via email, you can do so at robert@soldbyrobert.com. Or if you'd prefer the telephone, you can just dial 408-852-0525, and I will be happy to discuss anything real estate related with you. Or if you're someone who prefers to chat online, you can find me at AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, or Yahoo Instant Messenger. The screen name is The Rebel Broker. And if you're using Skype, you can also find me there. Screen name on Skype is Rebel Broker. Referrals are always appreciated. If you're interested in buying or selling real estate in the Silicon Valley area, please feel free to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to help you in any way I can. And even out-of-area needs I can take care of. If you are someone in any state in the country, I can help you find the right agent for you. Feel free to give me a call or get in contact with me any of the ways I've specified above, and I'll be happy to turn you on to the best agent in your area. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you all next time.